You've got 15 or 20 years of material, and somewhere in the last year, you started wondering whether AI could just write the book for you. Maybe you already tried it. Maybe you've got 40,000 words sitting in a folder right now that you can't quite bring yourself to read. My name is Jacob Ratliff. I'm a professional book coach, and I've helped dozens of coaches, experts, and founders write books that build their credibility and help them attract new clients. I'm going to give you 8 things that go wrong when you write a book this way, and the one thing that fixes almost all of them. There is a whole genre of video right now showing you how to generate an entire manuscript over a weekend with AI. I'm not going to do that. And I want to be clear about why, because it isn't that I think the tools are bad. I use them every day. Here's my actual problem. It isn't that the model can't write your book. It's that it can. It'll do it this afternoon. An entire book, and not one sentence of it will look wrong to you on the page. It can produce a book. It just can't produce your book. So here's the bottom line. AI can write a book. It just can't figure out which book you're writing. Number 1, it can write a book, but it will probably be the wrong book. And this is the reason most AI manuscripts get abandoned somewhere around chapter 9. Ask a model to write a book about leadership and it'll do it right away. And honestly, it'll probably read pretty well, but it won't stop and ask you which book about leadership. It won't ask who's reading it. And it won't tell you that what you just handed it is really 4 books tangled together. It just picks one and goes, and it picks the average one, because that's what it's built to do. Here's what to do instead. Before you open anything, finish this sentence in writing. This book argues that blank, so that blank can blank. Claim, reader, outcome, write it out. It doesn't work in your head. That's the whole reason I make people write it down. Then paste that sentence into every session as the first line, before anything else. It's the difference between a tool that helps you and a tool that wanders off. And I'm not saying you need the perfect version on day 1. Mine took an embarrassingly long time to find. Before I wrote my book, Client Attractor, there was a long stretch where I couldn't have told you what it was about. I knew I had something worth saying, and I couldn't say it in a sentence. And it got disheartening enough that I started to believe nobody else thought my work was as valuable as I knew it was. That wasn't what was happening. It wasn't that nobody wanted to work with me. It was that nobody knew about me, and I hadn't decided what to tell them. And here's what it costs you if you skip this. You get a whole lot of competent pages about a subject instead of a book. You can feel that something's wrong, and you have no idea which part to fix. So you start over. That's the loop. AI can write a book. It just can't figure out which book you're writing. Number 2, it can write in a voice, but it won't be your voice. This is what people are actually hearing when they say a book sounds like AI. Read a paragraph it gives you back. It's clean. Nothing's wrong with it. And it sounds like everyone. That's not a bug in the tool. That's what the tool is. It got built by averaging an enormous amount of writing. So average is the house style. Your voice is the one thing in your book the next person in your field can't copy. It's the whole asset. Here's what to do instead. 3 things, and the first one is the one that actually works. Talk it. Don't type it. Voice record yourself explaining the chapter to one actual person you know. Transcribe that. Now you've got your syntax, your rhythm, and the 3 weird phrases you say instead of the normal ones. Edit from there. Keep a hard list of words you'd never say. Mine has leverage, utilize, unlock, transform. Every draft gets searched for them, and read every page out loud. If you stumble, it isn't yours. That test takes 4 seconds, and it's never once been wrong for me. I'm not saying never let it touch a sentence. Tightening a line here and there is fine. It's the drafting voice that has to be yours. What it costs you, the book is competent and it's anonymous. Somebody who wanted you puts it down in the first 10 pages and can't even tell you why. Number 3, it can write for an audience, but it can't write for your reader. And this is why your chapters feel sort of useful and never urgent. If you don't tell it who's reading, it writes for a general audience. Of course it does. Nobody told it otherwise. And a general audience is not a real thing. A book written for everyone is read by no one. A book written for one specific person is the book that person tells everyone they know about. Here's what to do instead. Write down one person in a sentence, specific enough that they'd feel a little exposed reading it. Coaches is a category. Here's a person, a coach who's been fully booked for 2 years, and still outside her client list, nobody has any idea who she is. You can picture her. You can hear how she'd say it. Give the model that sentence and hold it there. When it drifts back toward general, paste it again. It will drift. That's not a failure. That's just gravity. And you're the one who corrects for it. I know narrowing feels like standing at the edge of a much smaller pond on purpose. It works the other direction. And I'd rather make you uncomfortable with how narrow it feels than let you write to nobody. What it costs you. Every chapter is fine for a lot of people and necessary for none. Nobody recommends it because there's nobody it obviously belongs to. Number 4, it can make an argument, but it won't take a side. And this one decides whether your book has any reason to exist. Models are trained to be agreeable. Ask for a chapter on a contested question, and you'll get there are many perspectives. Balanced, hedged, safe. Your topic is not your book. Habits is a topic. Small changes compound into remarkable results is a book. Marketing is a topic. The best marketing doesn't feel like marketing is a book. One of those you can argue with. That's the one that's a book. Here's the rule I give clients, and I want you to be a little annoyed by it. If your book premise requires no persuasion, your book has no reason to exist. So here's what to do instead. Say your central claim out loud and ask whether a smart person in your field could reasonably disagree with it. If nobody could, you don't have a premise. You've got a description. Then, once you've got the sharp version, make the model argue against it. That's the one job it's genuinely great at. Every objection it raises is a chapter you now know you have to write. And what it costs you is pretty specific to people like you. You've spent 20 years building a reputation for being right, so the safe version feels responsible. You cover a lot of ground. You say nothing anybody repeats, and the book quietly disappears. The fear of taking a position is the exact thing that makes it forgettable. Number 5, it can write good chapters, but it can't build a book out of them, which sounds like the same thing. It isn't. Generate chapter by chapter, and each one comes back solid. Then you read them in a row, and something's off. Nothing builds. Chapter 7 doesn't need Chapter 6 to have happened. You could shuffle them and lose nothing. That's because you asked for chapters. You never asked for an argument. A book is not a collection of good chapters. The order is the argument. Chapter order is a claim about what your reader has to believe before they can believe the next thing. Here's what to do instead. 1 page before you generate anything. Every chapter, 1 line on what that chapter's job is. Not what it's called, what it does to the reader, 10 minutes, and it can be ugly. Then, for every chapter, write the sentence your reader can only accept because of the chapter before it. If you can't write that sentence, those 2 chapters are in the wrong order, or one of them isn't needed. What it costs you, you finish, you can tell it doesn't hang together, and the only fix left is structural. Cutting and resequencing 100 pages is genuinely miserable, and it's all work you could have avoided in 10 minutes. Number 6, it can do the thinking for you. And that's exactly the problem. This is the one I'd most want you to hear, and it's the hardest to notice while it's happening. Writing a book is mostly clear thinking. The sentences are the part revision fixes, which means the slow, uncomfortable stretch where you work out what you actually believe about your own subject isn't overhead on the way to the book. That is the book. And that's exactly the part the tool will do for you, instantly, on request. I've watched people generate a chapter on their own methodology and read it back with a slightly strange look on their face. It's right. It's just not theirs. They never had to work it out, so they don't own it, and they can't defend it on a stage. Here's what to do instead. This is a rule I'd keep even if you use these tools for everything else. Do the thinking first, then hand it over. Talk out what you believe before you ask for a single word. Voice memo, notebook, whatever. Messy is fine. And keep it away from your original material, your frameworks, your client stories, the arguments only you can make. Use it to arrange, to tighten, to push back, never to originate. I'm not saying every keystroke has to be yours. Nobody actually keeps that rule, but you should be able to defend every idea in your book without the document open. What it costs you, you end up with a book you can't speak to, which defeats the whole reason a coach or a consultant writes one. The book was supposed to be the thing that gets people to trust you before you're in the room. Number 7, it can add forever, but it can't tell you what to cut. And this is why AI manuscripts run long and read slow. Ask it to expand and it will forever. Ask it what to cut and you get something diplomatic. It has no idea what's load-bearing because it doesn't know what you're building. Cutting means knowing the argument, and the argument is yours. Here's what to do instead. 3 rules. Cut against the one sentence, that premise line from number 1. Every section either advances it or it goes. The question isn't, is this good? It's, is this necessary? Anything you're proud of gets read twice. The parts you love are the ones most likely to be in there for you instead of the reader. And give your chapters a length ceiling before you draft. Say 2,000 words. A limit you set in advance is a lot easier to live with than a cut you make afterward. What it costs you. The manuscript swells. The good parts get buried in the fine parts, and your reader quits in chapter 3, where nothing's wrong and nothing's happening. Number 8, it can finish your book, but it'll leave you out of it. This last one is less tactical, and it's the one I'd stake the whole video on. And here's what I actually think a book is for. The people I work with aren't writing a book to have a book. They're writing it because they've spent 20 years learning something and they want it to exist somewhere outside their own head. Usually there's one specific person they're hoping it reaches. That's a legacy thing. And I'll just say it plainly. Size, nobody wants a robot to write their legacy. And the tool will absolutely let you skip that. Not on purpose. It'll just hand you a finished thing with none of you in it. And it happens gradually enough that you don't notice until you're holding it. Here's what to do instead. 1 question at the end of every working session. 30 seconds. Is there anything in what I made today that only I could have written? A story. A client you learned something from. A thing you got wrong for years. An opinion you defend in a room full of your peers. If the honest answer is no for 3 sessions running, stop drafting and go back to the thinking. Something's come loose. What it costs you, you finish, and it's fine, and you don't want to hand it to anybody. I've seen that. It's much worse than not finishing. So, wrong book, wrong voice, wrong reader, no position. Chapters that don't add up to anything. It does your thinking for you, it can't tell you what to cut, and it'll leave you out of your own book. Almost every one of those has the same root, which is why the title said 1 thing and not 8. AI can write a book. It just can't figure out which book you're writing. Tell me in the comments which of the 8 you've already hit. Just the number. I read them. And if you want help figuring out which book you're writing, the reader, the premise, the chapter map, all of it on one page, that's the 1-hour book blueprint. It's the first link below, and it's built to be finished in an afternoon.